Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Anime review. This one's going to be for episode 177, which is called The Iron Walls Sensing System. So this was an Inojin focused episode, but I thought it was actually pretty good overall. The system that they implement here will obviously be pretty well known to manga readers, because it sort of becomes a sort of central point about like an upcoming character and their sort of chakra signature, of course. So it's cool to see that like introduced, and that this episode's plot is like a response to the last episode's plot. Naruto doesn't want to shut down the gate, but they still have to introduce some sort of a security system. So this is the better way to do it. That way they can still let people in. They just keep track of chakras that enter and exit it, and they know which ones are suspicious. So that was pretty clever. It makes sense that Ino is the one put in charge of this, given that she's the, of course, main sensory ninja in the village. And it created this interesting dynamic for Inojin, who's always been more comfortable with Sai's jutsu than he has been with Ino's, but he has been slowly developing the Ino side of his jutsus a lot more. So he's put on this the sort of test missions here to test the barrier. With Kohan, who I thought was a pretty cool sort of supporting character in this episode. I thought he had a nice design. He's also a member of the Yamanaka clan, as just sort of a experienced sensory ninja, to get across that, in a way, like, this is what Inojin maybe should be more like, but actually he has a more unique skill set in a way, and that became kind of interesting as the episode progressed. But the main core of this episode is more Inojin sort of wanting to live up to what he thinks is Ino's expectations, that because she's leading this whole barrier kind of project, he feels that, oh, she's brought me onto this because she really wants me to be part of it, she really wants me to be a sensory ninja. And he's constantly thinking that, like, okay, I'm not my mom, I don't have the same level of skill that she does, but everyone's going to think that I should. And so he's very careful to warn everyone about that, but he's also like, oh yeah, I was taught when I was younger how to sense chakra, but then in practice we see that he hasn't actually done it in a while and isn't that great at it. And so, it builds up to the first, proper one-on-one scene between Inojin and Ino, and the main thing you get here is just how sort of supportive Ino is, and how she's very aware that she doesn't want to just push what she wants to do onto him, and is like, if you really don't like this, then you don't have to take part in the rest of the test. And his main questions coming out of this are kind of like, as he talks about with Sai, why does she do this, like, what, in a way, like, what about the flower shop? He's sort of kind of confused about, like, he sort of usually pictures his mom as the person who runs the flower shop, and that's what she's really passionate about. But then he sees her sort of equally as passionate about this project, and he doesn't really know where that comes from. And so Sai tells him about the reason she ultimately is so passionate about the sort of sensory side of things is because of what she saw her father do during the war, and how integral to the village's security he was, and she wants to be that for the village now. So this was a kind of interesting reveal also of the death of Inoichi, and then with the preview bringing Ao back into things, which is very important. And the preview also bringing Shikamaru into play more, in that it looks like there's going to be a sort of memorial for, I don't know if it's going to be for everyone who died during the war, but at the very least it looks like focused on the people who died at HQ when the Ten Tails attacked. And so the next episode looks to be the one that actually canonically first reveals to us, I guess, that Ao actually survived that, because he was in HQ with Inoichi and Shikaku when the attack came in, and we thought everyone had died. So that's actually a kind of notable reveal even from the preview. And then manga readers, of course, know that Ao is central to the next manga arc. So seeing him here means we're getting ever so close to starting that arc, which is very, very exciting. Because this arc is, I think, the one that really gets us into the run of manga arcs that really build to where we are sort of right now in the manga. So, it feels like that the anime is finally getting to the best of Boruto. So that's pretty exciting. But back to, I suppose, specifically on this episode. It ends up not just being a sort of Ino family episode, but there is also like an actual plot to it here. They're not just testing the barrier. There ends up being this actual sort of villain to hunt down kind of type thing. So testing it, Inojin ends up finding Shigadai is sort of the intruder that he has to find. Finds him. But as he was finding him, he also noticed some different chakra, some fuzzy chakra. And so he tries to tell Kohan about this, and he's just like, I didn't sense anything, I was sensing it as well. And it seems to point out this kind of almost like extra layer of detail that Inojin is able to do with his sensing abilities. He doesn't seem to have a very wide range, which he addresses later on, but it is more sensitive than it seems like your average shinobi. So I'm wondering, I guess they will have him develop these skills more, given that he seems to have a talent for it. But, as we see, he's going to do it in his own way. So they find out that it's this guy from the bingo book, a wanted criminal, who has the ability to basically copy other people's chakra. And that's what he was seeing here. The guy with the fuzzy chakra is sort of the one weakness of the chakra copying jutsu. And so Inojin is able to sense that. And they end up basically tracking him down with Inojin using the sensory ability combined with the Super Beast Scroll, where he sends out birds to extend his range. And so I think that is a really cool use of sort of both sides of his sort of family lineage. Using the Super Beast Scroll in a sensory jutsu. That's really, really interesting to me. I'm wondering, will he just learn to do the sensory jutsu wide range? Or will that always be the way that he does it? I think either way is actually quite good. But I suppose if there maybe was one weakness to the episode, I thought right at the end, Ino's last line, while it fit with her character over the rest of the episode, it felt like, shouldn't she have been a little bit more like hopeful about Inojin's skills going forward, and that she's just kind of like, okay, his test results on this mission didn't end up coming back that great, but I'm happy with that. I thought there would have been more of a sense of like, oh no, you have the skills. I'm still not going to push or force you to do this if you don't want to, but you do actually have a talent for it. And it just felt like a kind of weird way to sort of end the episode, given the progress that Inojin actually made in this front. That there was no commitment at the end of this episode to, I'm going to study this more, I'm going to really make sure my sensory jutsu works in the right way. Like, I appreciate what the episode did with regards to he finally asks Ino about, I thought you were super into the flower shop. And she's like, it is. But I'm also invested in this. I can have those dual interests and, keep going. And that, the flower shop is this thing that she has, so that it's not all about the sensory and the security of the village. And she's just kind of trying to point out that the same can apply for you, that like you can be focused on size jutsu, but you can also do this as well, that you don't have to laser focus into one or the other, I guess is the main takeaway. And to be fair, the episode did have, praise Inojin for finding out this sort of slight flaw, or I guess extra feature to add to the barrier, which is now that there's a kind of formula added in where it can sense sort of like copied chakra signatures, and that's all down to what Inojin accomplished during the test. So even though I suppose he didn't score particularly well on the test because he failed like the whole first session, he was probably one of the few people on the test who actually found out something that could improve the barrier overall. So it's kind of a bit of an interesting one in that sense. But yeah, I thought just enjoyable episode. Really heavily utilizing Inojin and his family, especially with the Inoichi reference. I thought was really good. The scenes of Ino and Inojin, Inojin and Sai were all good. Kohan was a nice supporting character, and you got a little bit of Shikadai and Boruto in the episode, but they didn't take over it or anything. So yeah, really fun, enjoyable episode. Probably not the best episode overall, but it looks like we're setting up a more heavy, direct setup for the next manga arc with the next episode. And then I think we have 1 or 2 more episodes that are acting as the full-on like prelude to the manga arc before we get into the AO arc. So yeah, they're my thoughts on this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.